Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Lisa's Love and Light. How are you guys doing today? Hopefully, everyone is doing well and everything is going well. Um, Today is Tuesday. I'm a little exhausted, just a little bit. Had an appointment this morning, was at the gym last night. Now, yesterday, guys, um, I did a video about remembering my mom. And it took everything within my power to get up and get out and get to the gym because I made a goal, that I would get there a few times a week. So, out of everything that I was feeling and everything that was going on, I was just grateful that I was able to get up because I was feeling so much grief, crying yesterday. But I put on some music for a little while to listen to so that I can, you know, um, just get into a better frame of mind. And it was very difficult to do. And a video, even through the video yesterday, I just tears welled up in my eyes. And when I spoke to one of my siblings yesterday, which I don't really speak to them that often, and I had to remind her that yesterday was mom's, anniversary of her passing. Whatever you're doing, regardless of how busy you are, take a moment of silence to remember mom. And that's all I really had to say because, it's just hard. But today I'm in a better place, still dealing with a little bit of grief, but not as bad as it felt yesterday. And like I said to you guys, those who are going through this, you're going to have some good days where you feel really good. And then you're going to have some days where you don't feel that well at all. And yesterday was one of those days. However, today it's a little bit better, and I'm just going to rest today, get some rest, and just take care of myself. It's so important. So for those who are going through this, and especially if it's really just hit you and it just happened, take time out. Don't be ashamed or afraid to tell others that you need some alone time right now because grief within itself can take a toll on your physical and mental health. So it's so important, everyone. So do what you need to take care of yourself. Like I always say, if you don't take care of you, if you don't put yourself first, especially when it comes to your physical and mental health, then everything else around you will fall apart. It's important that you're okay. And because if you're okay, then you can take care of everything else around you. Please keep that in mind. Also, keep in mind, newcomers, um, those who've been with me for a while know this, but I say this every video. I am not a certified therapist or social worker of any sort. I don't have a degree in that category. I do have a degree, but not in that category. I'm someone who's gone through so much pain, grief, trauma, and just a lot of pain. And, I found some ways to deal with it. It wasn't easy. And the first step was therapy. And so, I come on here and I share because some people are going through hell right now, pain, unbelievable pain due to grief, trauma, and other situations. And they need a space where they can come on to and hear messages and whatever that I say, maybe not today, maybe yesterday, maybe tomorrow, someone somewhere who's listening is going to hear the message. And some of the things that I talk about, ways on how I get through the pain of grief, um, may resonate with them. And perhaps they can take what's being said and apply it in their own situation, and it can help them on a healing journey. Because it's important that we heal from these things and that we don't stay stuck and stagnated in pain and depression and grief. So, with that being said, everyone, I hope your day was good. It's a nice day outside. It's not too warm, not too cold. It's just really nice out. So, if you feeling, a certain way, just get out into nature. I like nature. Just walking, do something that's going to uplift your spirits. The topic of discussion today is called The Takers. Remember, I always say, for those who listen to me on a regular basis, I always talk about people come into our life for a reason, a season, a lifetime, or a lesson. And so um, I always emphasize that because I want people to understand that life is about lessons, and that sometimes people do not come into our life to stay permanently. Sometimes they're there for a lesson, or sometimes they are there for a reason. And today we're going to talk about the reason. When I think about takers, I think about prior situations that I had in my life. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic relationship, but sometimes it was, along with friends. When people see that you have a generous nature, when people see that you have a generous nature, you're kind, you're compassionate, and you care about other people and what's going on with them. You genuinely just care because it's just how you're built. Some other people will take that as being weak, and there's nothing weak about me or people who are generous. And other people, like some people, like to take advantage of people's kind and given nature. And that's what I experienced most of the first half of my life. Just being generous, helping people, and they would just take advantage of it. And this is why I labeled this video The Takers, because we're going to talk about people who just come into other people's life so that they can take from them, so that they can, study their character and see how they are, so that they can plant themselves into that person's life so that they can take. And some people do it temporarily. They take what they can and then they move on to somebody else to do it, etc. But some people come and they take and they feel entitled to do this. They feel entitled that you have to take care of them because they don't want to take care of themselves. And they feel entitled to whatever you have, whether it's a little bit or a lot. They feel entitled to whatever it is. And I'm addressing this today because these things that I talk about, these little pieces here and there, all lead to healing, self love, or everything that I'm talking about. Because when you decide to get on a journey to heal yourself, you start to self love, self care. And as you love yourself, you know that you're worth more than having people in your life who don't care about you. They're just there to use you or to take from you. You know that you're worth more than that. You are above that, and you are worthy of love, and you are worthy of having someone in your life who love you and care about you and who's going to treat you in the same manner that you treat them, and not someone who's going to just use you and abuse you and throw you away like an old dish rag. It's important. Um, some people might enter our life thinking that because we have that generous nature that we're going to give everything we have to them, even our last dime, our last penny, whatever it is. And I think about movies that I watch in reference to this. When was it? Probably over the weekend, on Saturday, I believe. No, not Saturday. Yes, it was Saturday. Earlier part of Saturday, Lifetime had a movie about a man who had seven wives, and these women didn't even know that he was married to each of them. He would tell each wife he needs to go on a business trip blah blah, etc. He'll be gone for a week and then come back. So he would spend a week um, with each wife and then tell them he had business trips. Well, eventually, of course, they found out. And this is based on a true story. A lot of these things are lifetime happen to be true stories. And the women found out about each other. One woman in particular, when the story started, she found out because there was, he had, the husband had another wife who had passed away, and he had a account in her name, and she had went to the bank on a prior matter and found out about this and said no, he's never been married, because what she was told, he was never married, but he had six other wives. And that was the beginning of the end for him, because now these wives, she found the other wives and they came together. Instead of like you saw in the Jerry Springer episode, they're fighting and with each other and all of that. They didn't do that. They came together and played the game so that they can catch him up. And they did. And, and it's like, wow, and this was a true story. And I was like, wow, this man is using all these women. Seven women. He had seven wives. And I think he had a child or two by two other, uh, by two of the seven wives. And it just got, just, it was just like horrific. So when you start to love yourself, you start to pay attention to your surroundings. I mean, not that people don't before, but you start to take care of yourself as you self love and heal, and you're in a space of healing and taking care of yourself and putting yourself as a priority. You start to self care. And self care for me, I'm just going to use myself as an example. I had so many people in the past just using me, coming in and out of my life, get what they want and then they move on, and, so forth. And as I started to heal and do therapy and take care of myself, I started to learn not only to love myself, but to know my self worth. Remember, I talked about in high school when I graduated, my English teacher, Mr. Krell, wrote in my yearbook. He said to me, never sell yourself short. I didn't understand what that meant at the time he wrote it, but as I went through life, I now understand what that means. It's important that we love ourselves enough to know that we're not going to settle for less. And that's what I've learned, on this journey called life, as I get on the journey now to heal, not to settle just because someone wants to be my friend, just because someone wants to be in a relationship with me, or just be in my surroundings. Know what I deserve and to know what my worth is, and not to settle for anything less. And it doesn't mean that I'm conceited or think I'm better than anybody else. It has nothing to do with any of that, because sometimes people come into your life, a reason, a season, a lifetime, or a lesson. And I'm at the point where I want the lifetime. I've had all the others. And once, like I said, with lessons, once the lesson is learned, you don't have to repeat it. But if you have to repeat those lessons, that next time that wheel spin around, it's going to be worse than ever. That's why it's important to learn the lesson as quickly as we can so that we can move on to the next phase within our life. And it's not easy. And I had to repeat lessons. And what I'm talking about with you guys right now about the takers, it took me a long time to learn that lesson because I'm generous at nature, to help other people, to just, but sometimes people are not there just for you to help them. They're there to use and see what they can get, and I learned a lot within the last 2 years ago when I dated someone 2 years ago. Um, and this person was just there to see what they can get, and I didn't realize that at first because I wasn't really on this journey of healing like I am today. There's signs to look for. In another video, in a future video, we're going to talk about some of those signs as well. And I was still in a space of grief back then because it was fresh and more new than it is today. And I was just feeling this void of loss. And this person comes into my life and they, act like they care, etc. And that person was only there to see what they can take, and then move on with their life. Thank God they wasn't able to really take anything. It reminds me of it used to come on, I don't know if it still comes on, but Whoopi Goldberg was the narrator of, it was called The Con. And one episode that I watched that stood out the most to me was this woman who lost her husband. And she had been married maybe 25, 30 years. I think it was 25. But anyway, she lost her husband, and it had been maybe 2 or 3 years. He had been gone. And she was feeling lonely and depressed, and, with the grief, etc. And so this man comes along, and he's very charming, and he knew how to charm her because this is what he did as a profession. You know, he go and charm widows, women who lost their husbands and who felt lonely, and he charmed her, made her believe that he was gonna be there for her and he was her everything, and she fell right into the charm. And to make this story short, he she gave over $100,000 of her life savings to him to invest in a bogus company that he never had. And I'm looking at this, and as this is playing out, I'm like, I know how this is going to turn out. And I said, I wish I knew this woman and tell her, please don't do this. This man is no good. And just look at the signs. I know you're grieving, but take time out to see what's happening here. And she gave $100,000 of her money to him. He was engaged to her by that time, saying they were going to be married. And he had been consistent with everything he was telling her up until now. And I'm like, her intuition should be kicking in somewhere down the line, you know? And then it did, but it seemed like it kicked in too late because as she was sleeping, the next scene you saw, she was asleep. It was the middle of the night. And all of a sudden, boom, she sat straight up in a bed. Her intuition, something hit her. And she called him, and his phone was disconnected. This number is no longer in service, and all her money was gone. And I said, oh my God. So on top of the grief that she was already going through, add this to the plate. And I'm like, OMG, he's gone, nowhere to be found. And then she tried to find his company where he was gone. He wasn't even in a state anymore. He had her money and was going on to the next person. And it's just horrific. But I think what happened throughout the story is that there was other women that he did this to, and they came together, and one of them found him, and they finally went to court after he got arrested. I'm not sure if they got their money back or not, but it's a horrific story, especially for somebody who's in a space of grief. Because when you're going through grief, you're not thinking, and I know, like, when I lost a lot and all these people are dying during the shutdown, including my mom, then my dog died, I wasn't thinking about who I was letting into my space, and just like I do now, because, even though the void that I feel will always be there, but I can get through the pain of the grief, and I say this and tell these stories because it's going to help somebody out there who might be encountering something like this. Think before you make a bad decision, decision that could haunt you for the rest of your life. Think about what you do and take the time to think, no matter what you're going through. Because sometimes decisions that we make, we can't undo them. Like in this situation with this woman, her money was gone, $100,000 of her savings, and he was going with it. So sometimes we have to really think about what we're doing before we, leap and make a decision that we will regret for the rest of our life. There are people out there who come into our life who sincerely care about us, and there are people who are takers. And you have to see the signs of it. I always say if it's looking like a duck, it's quacking and walking and talking like a duck, it's the color of a duck, it is a duck. Don't call it a dog or a cat. See it for what it is. See behind that mask, and use your intuition. We all have an intuition, male or female. We have that. And when something within us rise within us to make us feel like something's not right with this, we have to go with what that is. Because I know in the past when I don't listen to my intuition, something always not so good happened. So I learned that the intuition is there for a reason, and we should listen to that because, sometimes, when we don't listen to that, and we can make a bad decision that will, you know, point us for the rest of our life. It's so important to think about what we're doing. And what I do now differently, instead of making impulsive decisions, I take my time. And even if with a relationship, build up it's important to have a friendship first, the longer that you do be friends, the more you get to know about each other, and then you don't, if you rush into something, then perhaps it's something that you didn't see because that person that you rushed into the situation with was wearing a mask and you couldn't see behind it at that time. Now you're stuck in this situation. So it's always important, like for myself, to get to know people. Let's build up a friendship. Let's do something fun. Let's hang out. Let's do things and really get to know each other. And then let it naturally turn into the relationship that it was going to be, you know. When if it's not going to be a relationship, then you have a good friend. So, I've learned to do things differently on this healing journey, because I've been through so much. And like I said, the lessons, life is, lessons as well. And, I try to learn these lessons as quickly as possible. So I hope this message helps someone. That's the message today. I wanted to talk about that because all these things I talk about is, you can connect the dots and you can relate it to grief. Because sometimes when we're grieving and people see that we are at our weakest point in life, they may want to come in and take and use and abuse. And we have to be aware of that. Even though we're grieving the loss of something or going through something, we have to take the time out and take the blinders off and see what's really happening here so that we won't get um, ourselves in a situation that we can't get out of. That's the message today. Please share these messages with other people, and I want others to know that this is a no judgment zone. We don't judge people here on this channel. I myself listen to other channels to build myself up. And some of the channels I was listening to, when people start that judgment stuff, I just click off and just delete it because we all are human. Nobody has the right to feel that they're better than the next person or to judge somebody. We're not playing God here. We're going to let God be God. We're not going to be in a judgment zone, you know. And, when you feel like, just that emptiness, what I do too is go to God in prayer and ask Him to help me. And He helps me as I take the steps. As I take a step, God takes the next step to help me as well. So prayer is very important to me. And it's also important to help others, not to judge them. People are already going through a lot, just life in general. Nobody has a right to judge that others and add more pain to their plate. So thank you for listening. Please share this message with others. And also, I can never promise a time that I'm going to be on. But if you hit the subscribe button, you will always know when I'm here live. And you can just join me live or you can watch later on. Also, hit the like button and share with others. Let them know about this channel and send me some comments and let me know how these videos are helping you as well. Thank you. You guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow. This is Lisa, always encouraging you to be the best version of yourself and for you to uplift. I'm here to uplift and to help. Thank you guys. I'll see you tomorrow.